Top of the morning to you. This video is going to be an intro on what this channel is going to be about. This channel is just going to be about basic information. I'm not going to reveal a whole lot, but I am going to try my best to serve humanity and just a different outlet, just a different medium. And in these videos, I'm going to also be promoting my business, Dragon Face. Dragon Face is primarily about the left-hand path, or not even just the left-hand path, but the understanding of the left-hand path and the right-hand path in unison, and transcending the thought of either one so that we can reach new heights of understanding every single day. So I'm making these videos to have yet another medium that I can explain these things in, because I do it in my everyday life. I do it on my Facebook page, and so this is just another way of expanding my entrepreneurship and finding as many outlets as I possibly can. Now, Dragon Face is about facing the dragon, or another way I'd be putting it is letting the dragon come through your face, so that when you express yourself, the dragon comes through. And to me, the dragon represents nurturing. It represents birth. It's very attractive and it's magnetic. The dragon itself is to me, is one of the most powerful symbols and hidden occult symbols throughout our religious understandings. See, the left-hand path is all about challenge. And for the most part, we have a lot of people in the world who challenge themselves on the regular, but there are still a lot of people in the world who find it very difficult to challenge themselves due to fear or misunderstanding or confusion. And so in this way, we can find a way to not only grow in every single possible way that we can every day, but we can also learn about Dragon Face. And Dragon Face I think is very special, because this way we can learn about many different forms of spirituality, which in reality there's only one form. And to me, that entails camaraderie, whereas most people see it as adversity. And challenge and adversity are they're synonymous, but the word enemy has a very negative connotation, so I say adversary. Most people who are adversaries that challenge the norm, they break the societal boundaries, most of them are seen as evil. Most of them are seen as misconstrued. Take, for instance, the so-called Illuminati. The Illuminati is not a real thing. The Illuminati is a group of individuals who are all illuminated. However, they all do it in many different ways. The reason why they're all grouped into this category is because they use the same symbolism and they use the same terminology. But it was never originally set up. It's more or less an urban myth or a folktale. It doesn't have any substance. But the truth about when anybody mentions the word God, the name and where it comes from ultimately goes farther back, and it becomes the names either Satan or Lucifer. And to me, whenever I was growing up as a Christian, these names had negative connotations, and I couldn't say them without trembling a little bit. But now I say them, and no fear comes over me, because I've understood the truth. And it's sad to say that logic usually trumps a rational emotion. But then again, depending on what it is about, a rational emotion can trump logic. However, most irrational emotion is based upon fear and misunderstanding, and people judge what they don't understand. And so the left and the right hand path are both necessary. Most of us seek security. Most of us seek protection, and usually that comes from the right hand path. However, the right hand path has to deal with death and reincarnation, whereas the left hand path has always been associated with immortality. And you can just go up to somebody, or especially a Christian or a Catholic, and say that I'm going to be immortal. And unless you're talking about the way of heaven or the way that they see it as, they're going to see it as a sin and something that's blasphemy. When in reality, it has nothing to do with that. The reason why they see it as that is because of their own limited understanding. And so, the thing about the left-hand path is that we take on challenges so that we can rewire our brain so that we don't perpetuate fear, anxiety, and triggers of emotion in the brain and the heart. The reason why we challenge ourselves every single day is to expand a little further and go outside our comfort zones. And the extent of the left-hand path is infinite. You can literally do it in every possible expression of reality. You can tell off a Jehovah's Witness, leave, don't come back to my house, instead of sitting there and droning off and nodding to what they're saying even though you don't really care, and you keep repeating to yourself, I'm going to tell them off, I'm going to tell them off. Just tell them off. It's that simple. You don't have to say fuck you or anything. You just have to stand your ground and do what you promised yourself to do. And a lot of us, we make promises on taking on these challenges, but when we get to the forefront of the challenge, we must be courageous, because courage is all of the virtues combined at the forefront of the challenge. It's fearlessness. You must power through in order to be free. But the thing about it is the left-hand path is what Jesus described as the narrow gate. And that's why only very few get into the narrow gate, because most people are afraid. They're afraid of the narrow gate because of what it basically proposes. And, you have people who are not even aware of the religious aspect of it, but yet they challenge themselves every day. And if you were to tell them about the religious aspect of it, they'd be like, sure, let me take it on, whatever. So this channel is not only about how to free yourself as an individual and regain that zest and that love for life and for yourself and for others, but it also will be about many topics that I have come across throughout my life, and many different forms of intel that I have procured, and I'm not exactly sure if that's the meaning of that word, but I've been using it anyways. See, it doesn't matter, because somebody might call me out on it, and it doesn't really bother me. And the more that I care less and less about people's harsh opinions, or even just my ego. If somebody corrected me, if you did that to me 2 years ago, it would have hurt my ego. But now I'm starting to realize that more of what I want are things that I don't even know that I want, because in reality, our ego is our perception of reality, and we have a list in our mind of what we do want in life, and we always search after those things. And yes, it's necessary to go search after those things, but when you realize that what you truly want are very abstract things that we've all forgotten about, we'll be more susceptible to be open to these things. But like I said about, I'm not entirely sure about all of my information. The reason that I am so sure about it is because of faith. It all has to do with faith. Mostly facts, but it's also faith. So if I'm wrong about anything, if you disagree with anything, feel free to comment, below. I'm not going to let them get to me. There's no point, you know what I'm saying? Like, but if you feel like this information helps you, then by all means, judge me by my other videos. Don't just take this one at first hand and know who or what I'm about, because that's another thing that most people judge of people on the left-hand path, or people who face the dragon, is people have pasts. People have, we've all been through some shit, and to judge somebody on just strictly on a belief system basis, and to start judging their character for it is completely unnecessary, because the day that you start understanding the belief systems and you start freeing yourself from the fetters and the binds of these things, you're going to start spreading the true word of God. The true word of God is very obscure and mysterious, but when you start teaching it to people, you'll realize how harsh they can be to your character, when all you're doing is being harsh to their belief systems. And you may not even being harsh. You can give somebody the gospel in the most restraint, in the most gentle way, and it will still be difficult for them. But the beauty of it is that if you clear them of their belief systems, if you help them structure the way that they think, then you'll be freeing them, and then they'll be on their way to be doing what you have done or are doing. So facing the dragon is very nerve-wracking at first. Most people, whenever they go on the left-hand path, or whenever they start studying the occult religious truth of the institutions of Christianity and Catholicism, Judaism, and they start realizing that it goes farther back to the Temple of Set, and it goes back to Egyptian religions and Egyptian pantheons of gods, and their truth, basically what they tried to tell us. When you start looking back, you realize that there are much older versions of the things that we already know, and thus it becomes simpler. You look back, and through simpler times you get simpler information, and I'll make separate videos describing these different things. But when you realize that as you look back, it ends up being the exact opposite of what you think it is. So even though it might be very nerve-wracking at first when you start down this path and start studying these occult secrets and stuff, it's very scary at first, but you'll realize that the fear is irrational, and that you didn't create it. It was just there, and it was actually planted within you. And you realize that nobody's at fault here, even the government or the worst type of people that you can ever imagine. So I say have courage, and learn about the Buddha. He can really help you whenever you're learning about these occult secrets. That's all I'm going to say for now. I hope you enjoyed this and the other videos in the channel altogether. Have a kick-ass day, whatever. Do your thing, I'll do mine. That's all we can do.